Hello guys and welcome back to another Illusion 2 video of a bit of a different type. So today is kind of a guide, but not your usual guide. And today we are having the guide of how to play tournaments. So this is the first video here is actually meant for players who have no idea, but think they might be interesting or are wondering if that could be something for them. If you're already playing tournaments and want to improve a little bit and get some advice on certain things, the second and the third video are going to be for you. So this one is basically just how do you know if it's good? So if it's something for you, how does it usually work? And some common questions. The next two videos are going to be the picks and bans and then adjusting your deck to the matchup. So the two things that you can already do or that can already lose the game before you actually play. So we're going to take a very detailed look or a more detailed look at those two things. But here today, it's really just are tournaments something for you and what can you expect and how does it all work? So without further delay, I think we're gonna go right into it. So how do you know, or are tournaments something for me? How do I know if I should play? Maybe you're already interested a little bit or you're considering it at least just a tiny bit. So how do you know that? So basically there are some things that I would say are good. If you tick some of these boxes, I think you might actually like it. So, is it for you? Well, tournament games are for you if you like a more competitive play. Of course, 1v1 at least. I don't know about 10v10, I don't play it. Is already competitive. It is a competitive game after all, right? It's a 1v1 and it's basically win or lose. There's no like, oh, but I played well. I mean, there is, but you know, usually it feels good if you win and feels bad if you lose. So that's one thing. The other thing is if you like to get an extra layer, right? Which means you have the whole picks and bans of divisions and map and all these kind of things and building your division for the map specifically and the matchup. If you like that extra layer of content, basically, I'd say like that, or of planning and knowledge, then tournaments might be something for you. Also, if you like to play some divisions on the maps and in the matchups that they're actually supposed to be played, that's another thing, right? A lot of divisions in this game are, if you go into the queue, rather bad, or it's very risky at least to get a good game. It's very risky. It's hard to get a good game because either they are very niche in terms of the map they work on or very niche in terms of the division that they can work against on set maps in some cases actually. So that's one thing. Tournaments make more divisions viable because you know where you play them on and what divisions you play them against, or at least one player knows in advance. And in that regard, you know, you get to play some more divisions and have success with them without risking having no fun at all. The next thing is if you just like to change things up every now and then, tournaments usually have different rule sets. Some of the, let's say, more larger tournaments usually have a pretty clear and a rule set that pretty much always is the same, maybe with small variations like the number of bans, but the same concept always applies. Now, but in the monthly tournaments, you do have a lot of different rule sets with various new challenges coming with those, and just a little bit of fun and change. So if you like that, you could also consider it. And the last thing is, of course, if you like to have a time limit, because we all know that sometimes these queue play games can be a bit grindy, whereas with a time limit, this is less of the case. So I would say if you tick one of these boxes, tournaments are probably not for you. But if you tick more than one of these, I think you should give tournaments a try. Now, if you're interested, and I hope you are, of course, there are some things you can do. If you are, and I'm going to give you a list of tournaments below that you can try your luck in. But also, if you're not 100% convinced, but think, yeah, it could be cool, one thing that you can do, if you just want to try it first, you can pick a rule set from a tourney and play a few games with a friend, custom games with the time limit and a certain rule set, or you can go looking for games in a Discord. I think the Bootcamp at the FOB might have some players that you could find to play against. Or if that doesn't help, either because you don't want to go there or you don't have any luck finding anyone, you can also just play the queue and see what you can do with a 50-minute time limit. It's not as fun as the others, but at least you get a little bit of an impression. Now, if you already know, or if you do that and you decide that, yeah, tournaments are cool, where can you find tournaments, or what tournaments are there? So there is the monthly tournaments and there is some larger tournaments. The larger ones are usually less frequently. The monthlies, as the name implies, are played monthly. In the monthly tournaments, we do have the Greenhorn tournament, the Intermediate tournament, and the Open tournament. And I think sometimes there are tournaments on the FOB HQ Discord as well that are monthlies. At the moment, there's none. But these are available to you. The Greenhorn and Intermediate are in the Bootcamp Discord. The Open tournament is on the STL Discord. Links will be in the description down below. And yeah, the one in the FOB HQ Discord is in the FOB HQ Discord. I don't know what the name usually is. So these are available to you. Note that the Greenhorn and Intermediate are based on skill, where players above a certain level of skill are not being allowed to play. The Open tournament is open for anyone. Now, for the larger tournaments, we have a league, which likely is not going to come back anymore, but maybe, we don't know. Then starting in the FOB HQ Discord, there is FOB Arena coming up, which is trying to replace League, assuming that League is not going to happen. If not, if League is going to continue at some point, we will just get FOB Arena on top, which is also nice. And then I do have my own tournaments planned, with the first one running at the moment. So these are all options that you can take. As again, links are in the description down below. Feel free to join and just give it a try and see what we can do. Now, how does it usually work? The general setup of a tournament game is first of all, you get brackets. There's different modes, of course. Very common is Swiss. So you play your usually best of 2 games. With tie included, and then winners play winners, losers losers, and so on and so forth. Usually 4 rounds, so 1 month roughly, and you are done. That also means 1 game per week. Sometimes there's also a round robin or some sort of grouping phase, but that's usually the general format. Now, how does it work exactly? Well, you get a map, then you ban divisions, you pick divisions and an income for your division, and then you just play. The most commonly used rule set is basically you determine who is player 1 and player 2. That is important for the picks and bans. That has no implications during the game, or that the order that you have picked and banned your divisions. Usually you either use a coin flip via a bot in the Discord, heads or tails basically, or you have to check who is in the upper part of the bracket, and that might be player 1 for the coin flip. The one who wins can decide. Then you get 5 maps, and you take turns at banning. Usually player 1 starts, so player 2 gets to decide the map. However, player 1 has then an advantage because he's the last one to ban divisions and the first one to pick them. So he, has control over. He can basically, in the end, ban the last few divisions that he really wants to ban. That could counter his pick, and then he can pick in an ideal case. So that's really nice there. So yeah, they start banning maps, take turns, then player 2 will have to start banning divisions, which means that player 1 can also wait out a little bit with his bans and decide finally what he wants to pick before he does his last bans. Usually it's 2 to 4 bans for each round of banning. Usually it's both players get to ban twice, so player 2 bans 4 divisions, for example. Player 1 bans 4, player 2 again bans 4, and player 1 again bans 4. This is usually roughly where it goes. And then we have player 1 picking a division, player 2 picking division and income, and player 1 picking the income to round it all up. So you see both get to counter things a little bit. So this is the general setup of how it works. It's straightforward. Now, what are some commonly asked questions? The first one is usually, how does it work? When do we play our games? And usually it's 1 game per week, as I said earlier, and you get notified who you're up against, or notified to check the brackets as they are updated. And then you will have to find out or look who your opponent is. You contact that person, schedule your games at a time that suits both of you. For group phases or a round robin, it's sometimes also not a weekly schedule, but just a deadline after, for example, 4 weeks. You need to have completed your games, and how you schedule them is up to you. And you can decide for yourself how you want to play them. So this is usually how it works. It requires a little bit of planning for you and your opponent. Usually, just give that as a quick advice so that you know that ahead of time. Very often it will be the weekends. So, you know, if you're unsure if you have the time for it and you know that all your weekends are usually fully booked, you might want to reconsider it. Now the next question is, will you be matched against players from your time zone? No. And that's exactly why you might need to have time on one of the weekend days. You will be playing against people of different time zones, sometimes not, sometimes you do. In the worst case, you might have someone who's 12 hours ahead or behind you. And that's just something you have to plan around. It doesn't happen super often. I think there's enough people from all the different time zones. The ones that maybe struggle the most are the people from Australia and New Zealand, because there's not that many of those. But if you're in the US or in Europe, I think it's very common. Asia, you have some people too in those tournaments there. So you should be able to find people to play against with a reasonable time difference for some of your games. Now, of course, next question is then, what if I can't play a game? Because that can definitely happen if the time zones are there and you might have limited time and whatnot. So missing a game can happen, especially if the time zones align badly. The game will usually be auto-resolved as a tie or a win if there's one player who clearly made a lot of effort to try and get a game going and the other one just either didn't respond or was not cooperative at all, or just didn't really have the time. Sometimes players also decide to give the win to their opponent because they realize that they don't really have time and it's kind of their fault that the game can't be played. So this is the decent thing to do if that's the case. Now, as I said, this happens, it can happen, and that's totally okay. But, and that's very important, it should be an exception, not a rule. So basically, if you know that you basically don't have time for 2 out of 4 weeks of the tournament, maybe you should consider not playing. If you know that's just 1 week, that's usually fine because maybe you can manage to get it in, and if not, you know, it's not the end of the world. For bigger runs with a prize pool, I can kind of see how people can get a little bit pissed about that, but although it's usually fine, it's really not an issue. And actually, that was not on my list, but will there be prizes? Sometimes there are. It's, I would say, more of an exception than a rule. Sometimes someone decides to sponsor prizes. It happens rarely, but it happens sometime. So the next one is, how does the 50-minute time limit work? And it's really simple. Whoever has lost the most tickets by the 50-minute mark will have to surrender. This will be the loser. You can also use a time limit when you set up your games, but this is usually not done. It can sometimes be a little bit wonky in the end. I've definitely had a case where I won that because I had just lost slightly less tickets than my opponent first, but the game still declared it a tie. This is, however, not how it is handled with the tournaments. It's really just who has more tickets left in the end will be the winner. No discussion. Now, there can technically be a tie, but for the tournaments themselves, there can't be a tie for a single game. So if you have a best of 2, for example, there can be a tie with both players each win a game, but there can't be a tie for a single game. And in that case, usually it is resolved by the player who has more flags at the time of the 50-minute mark, who will get the win. There's also, of course, a special case that if, I don't remember, this is usually handled, stated in the tournament rule, I don't know by heart, but of course that could technically be the case where you have a tie both in tickets and in flags, but this is very rare, as already the ties in tickets are extremely rare. Adding to that though, what settings are usually used? It's just normal settings, as if you were to play a normal game. So normal initial cohesion, 750 points, starting income, and the 1 times income. So no modifiers whatsoever, just standard 1v1 game. Now the next thing is, will I play against players of my skill? In some tournaments, you do have brackets of skill. So this is usually, if there's enough players in some tournaments, they do that. Not all of them. This is especially common for the larger tournaments like League or FOB Arena. My tournament's doing the same thing as well. You also have divisions. You also have tournaments where you specifically target a specific skill group. So the Greenhorn tournament is for new players. The intermediate tournament is, as the name implies, for intermediate players. Whereas the open tournament is open to anyone. So these are the kind of limitations that you have. You can definitely pick from the first two tournaments that I mentioned, the one that suits you better and have fun in there and not have to face the top players. That being said, even in those brackets that you usually have, or even in those skill group specific tournaments, there is some variety of skill and you will definitely have notable differences. This is just something you have to live with. Now, next question, of course, how do I know what to ban? How do I know what to pick? And how do I build my deck for the tournaments? And the answer to that you will find in the next two videos. So this is already it. This is just a brief overview and some introduction tips for those of you who want to know more. If I could make you some appetite for more tournament games, I hope to see you in the next videos and hopefully in one of the tournaments that are playing. Oh, bonus questions. Because I can imagine some of you guys are wondering, so will your games be casted by one of the casters around? This is always something that remains to be seen. But you know, if you have an interesting matchup and a long game and are playing in a tournament where either Attack Power or I are watching, there's definitely a chance that your game might get cast. I can't speak for Attack Power, but at least I'm checking all the tournaments that I have access to every now and then and look if there's interesting games. So it might happen, it might not. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Have a great day and see you next time.